Welcome to the Willow Creek online training program. Today's module is entitled How to Prepare for an Earthquake. The purpose of this module is to discuss how to prepare for an earthquake. The material in this module was taken directly from the Red Cross's Earthquake Safety Checklist. The Red Cross organization gave us permission to use this information. So how can we prepare for an earthquake? An earthquake is a sudden, rapid shaking of the earth caused by the breaking and shifting of rock beneath the earth's surface. Earthquakes strike suddenly without warning, and they can occur at any time of the year, day or night. I think we already knew that. Did you know? Doorways are no stronger than any other part of the structure. A lot of people think stand in the doorways, but with over time they've realized that that's no stronger than any other part of the structure. So be aware of that. During an earthquake, get under a sturdy piece of furniture and hold on. Now, you need to do this beforehand and go through your house and find the thing that you feel this is the strongest. Because it can cause problems. If you get under something and everything falls on you and it's not capable of holding the weight, guess what? It comes down, all the weight comes down on you at once, okay? So you want to find the most sturdiest piece of furniture in the house that you can get under. And if you're in a multi-floor skyscraper, obviously it may need to be really more sturdy, but be aware of that. Become aware of fire evacuation and earthquake plans for all buildings you occupy regularly. It's not uncommon when there's an earthquake, you also get fires. For many different reasons, but one is it could break a gas line, finds an ignition source, and off it goes. It could also mess up your electrical system, and that could cause problems as well. So be aware, when you have earthquakes, you're also more likely to have fires and flooding. Pick safe places in each room of your home, workplace, and or school. You know, it doesn't take long to scan over and say, I'd like to be here. In my house, we have some pretty big front windows. All right, I wouldn't want to be in that room. And there's also thick rocks on the fireplace. It's just probably not the best place to be in an earthquake. Because if you're by glass, glass shatters. And so you don't want to be in that room. And so for my place, it'd probably be the kitchen, and the kitchen table is very sturdy. So that's for my house. I've noticed that that's where we should go. Safe places should be under a strong piece of furniture. And if you don't have a strong piece of furniture nearby, get right against the interior wall. They've noticed from people going in and looking at things after earthquakes, or the interior walls, they may tip or something a little bit, but they don't collapse all over the place. So that's good to know. Unsafe places. This isn't safe. Okay? This is unsafe places. Unsafe places could be next to windows, as I already mentioned, to shattered glass. Bookcases. I have quite a few bookcases, especially in my office. My office would probably not be a good place to be in an earthquake due to the bookcases and the whiteboard, which is made out of tempered glass. Okay, and so it wouldn't be good. Tall furniture that could fall on you. And I have some tall bookcases, so those two go together. But it could be a china cabinet, you know, things like that are not good in an earthquake. Practice drop, cover, and hold on in each safe place. You know, in fire, it says stop, drop, and roll. In an earthquake, it's drop, cover, and hold on. If you do not have sturdy furniture to hold on to, sit on the floor next to the interior wall and cover your head and neck with your arms for protection. There you go. Drop to the ground, cover, and hold on. Because it could be a rough ride for a little bit, especially in those tougher earthquakes. All right, so here we go. Keep a flashlight and sturdy shoes by each person's bed. This is the recommendation from the Red Cross. Make sure your home is securely anchored to its foundation. I think most of your homes, that will not be a problem. I think it is a problem with mobile homes. So that may have been what that's for, but it doesn't hurt to check. Bolt and brace water heaters and gas appliances to wall studs. Water heaters can be a big problem in an earthquake. Number one, they're heavy, so they don't like to move with it. And they also have gas lines coming in, and of course water lines. If you don't have them strapped down, that will wipe out, it could wipe out the gas line. Now you have a leaking gas line in your house, looking for an ignition source, and trust me, it will find it, and when it does, it can cause some major problems for you. And water, of course, you break the water lines, you're going to have a lot of flooding. And when you have flooding and electricity, you go down to maybe turn off your one of your electrical boxes and you're standing in water. Don't do that, okay? That's not good. But what I'm saying, you need to have these strapped down. There's too many risks associated with the water heater. And so notice here, there's two straps. I don't know if you can see that very well, but there's a strap here, a strap here. They're metal straps in this case, and they go right into the studs. They have to be in the studs, not just the sheetrock, but right into the studs and bolted in there, screwed in with some fairly good leg screws. You may want to have a professional help you with that if you're not capable of doing it yourself. But this I would definitely do in this earthquake area we live in, and it doesn't take long. I did it to mine, probably took me, I don't know, half hour or so. So there you go. Bolt and brace water heaters and other gas appliances to wall studs. Bolt bookcases, china cabinets, and other tall furniture to wall studs. So there it is, you can see, and you can purchase these all over the place. They're pretty easy to come by. They're not very expensive, and they're not very difficult to put in either. You know, what do you have? 4 screws there, and you're finished. And I've shown you several different types here. There's one for television. I always look at that television. I wonder, yeah, something doesn't look right there. Because, yeah, it's going to keep it from sliding this way, but if it slides that way, those straps are not going to help you. I guess they assume that you'll have a wall behind that cabinet. Maybe that would be a little better. And so I think it would be. At least it wouldn't come flying out at you. All right, here we go. Hang heavy items such as pictures, mirrors, away from beds, couches, and anywhere people sleep or sit. Heavy items, they don't respond well to earthquakes, and they rip things apart. So that's the last thing you want, where people sit or sleep. There are heavy things hanging onto the wall. Brace overhead lighting fixtures. And I replaced a lighting fixture not too long ago, and I noticed it was strapped to the studs fairly securely. So I was glad to see that. But here's, you can purchase these and have a, you may need a professional to put those in for you if that's a problem. Install strong latches or bolts on cabinets. So your kitchen cabinets, those doors will fling open and all that ceramic and other stuff, glass comes flying out at people. So the Red Cross recommends you put in some strong latches or bolts on cabinets. And I don't know if that's strong enough, but that's all I could find. That definitely would be. Larger heavy items should be closest to the floor. So when they slide out, at least they're not at the same elevation as your head. Okay, another thing you need to know is learn how to shut off the gas valves in your home and keep a wrench handy for that particular purpose. So I have some pictures here, and what I want you to do is go out, and it'll be outside your house, I'm sure, but you'll have a gas meter. And on that gas meter there will be pipes running to it, as you see here. And there will be a valve. And the valve's a rectangular valve handle, and you'll have to have a wrench to turn it off and on. And if the valve handle runs parallel to the pipe, it's on. If it runs perpendicular to the pipe, it's off. Okay, and you usually rotate those clockwise to turn them off. So there's an example. That's a good thing to know. Here's the real picture. There's the valves. That's what they look like. Taking that out, they've blown it up. Very good. Here's another one. So I wanted to show you several of these. And then you may also have a valve that you turn by hand. Those are the ones. Remember I said gas is in your water heater? A gas line, there it is. They're yellow by code. And notice that red handle, it runs parallel to the pipe, so it's open. If you wanted to close it, you'd turn it clockwise until the handle is perpendicular to the pipe. That would mean that it's shut off. And so there's another one. Here's another picture. Usually, if you turn it and it's off, there's a place you can put a lock through so someone doesn't accidentally turn it on while you're working on something. Okay? So, very important. I want you to go out and do that. Make sure you get a wrench for that also. Very important. Keep a gas shut-off tool in easy reach in case you suspect a natural gas leak, a sulfuric odor, or hissing sound following earthquake shaking. So there's your pliers that you should have. And there's some crest. You don't have to have the full set. I just threw a couple up there so you know what they look like. You might want to get a bigger one, that way it won't take much force, because they're not, some of them are kind of hard to turn, especially if they haven't been worked for a while. So I don't think you'll need that largest one, but maybe that second one down would be a good size for you. Now, if you're going to shut the gas off, leave it off, okay, is the recommendation from the Red Cross. Because if you shut it off, now the gas isn't flowing into your house. You say, well, everything's okay now, so I'm going to turn it on. Well, you just are filling your house full of gas. And when it finds an ignition source, man, it just blows them flat to the ground. So it's very dangerous. Now, if you had an automatic pilot light on everything, and you turned it on and automatically lit the pilot light, then you'd be all right. But after an earthquake, you don't know if those automatic pilot lighting devices are working or not. So the Red Cross recommends that if you shut that gas off, don't turn it back on, have a professional do it, unless you're very comfortable with that kind of thing. So there it is. Keep a gas shut-off tool in easy reach in case you suspect a natural gas leak. Remember, we've already talked about this, a sulfuric odor or a hissing sound, a leaking sound following an earthquake. But use caution, because remember, you turn it back on and you're going to be in trouble if you don't have those pilot lights. You should also understand how to shut your main water valve off, which is also referred to as the water main. And so what you'll do is you'll go out in your yard. It's usually by the sidewalk, but not always. And you'll see a box that looks something like this. Notice I have my screwdriver in there. This is my emergency toolkit. Notice I have the pliers, the crescent wrench, a standard screwdriver, and a Phillips screwdriver. And with those, I can pretty much take care of everything. But anyway, I put my screwdriver in that slot, and if you pry it, you can pry that out of the ground. Now, if the ground has grown around it, you're going to have to spend a little more time. So maybe you need to go out there and make sure it's trimmed well around there so that you can pull that up without problems. Anyway, this is a picture after I pulled it up. And that's the valve. And they're not necessarily real big valves, as you can tell. And sometimes they're hard to find because maybe too many leaves have gathered in there over time or whatever, and you may have to dig around to find it. I'd rather have you go out there and dig around it right now just so you know where it's at, and if an emergency, you'll be ready to go. Because if you have a leak in your house for whatever reason, this is probably where you want to go to turn that off as soon as possible. Water creates a lot of damage. And you could use your crescent wrench to turn this, but sometimes it's in a hole, and the crescent wrench doesn't fit in there very well. In that case, there's usually these T-handle tools. And these T-handle tools, as you see, have kind of a rectangle end in there where the metal's bent and the inside's somewhat rectangular. You put that on that valve handle, and then, of course, you turn clockwise to shut it off. And so that's how you turn the water off. So now we know how to turn the gas off. There it is, right there. And we know how to turn, of course, the water off. Right there. Now we're going to talk about electricity and how to turn that off. You should also understand how to shut off electrical circuits. And it depends on when your house is built, but most of you will have the main breaker outside. And lots of times it'll be right next to your electrical meter. So that's your homework assignment. Make sure you can go out and find that. And usually there's a door you can open and shut off the power. And that's the main breaker, so it shuts everything off. Here's another style of one. I kind of like that one. It has a handle on it, so you can makes it easier to shut off. And it says on and off on there. And same in that switch, it'll say on and off. You just take it to the off position. Then inside your house, I want you to find this also. Go inside your house and you'll find an inside breaker. It isn't the main breaker, but it'll have many breakers. So and this one is labeled. Oh, there's the stove. That's where we're seeing spark shooting out, so we'll shut that one off, for example. But they're all, it'll say on and off there. In some of the newer houses, they won't have the main breaker outside. The main breaker will actually be up here. And that's nice in that you can stay inside and just hit your main breaker. It's kind of nice that way. There's a downside to it, though, because where the wire hooks in, if you think, oh, I shut off the main breaker, all the power's off, not upstream from that electrical switch, you have major voltage going on. So be aware of that. And for the most part, after an earthquake or a disaster and you're having electrical problems, you want to be careful, because if you don't know or feel comfortable around electricity, you can get in a lot of trouble. For example, if there's a flood in your basement and you go to this, I'd recommend stay away, call a professional, because you could really get injured. You could get killed is what could happen. Electricity is a very powerful force. All right, here we go. Remember, learn about your area's seismic building standards and land use codes before you begin new construction. You have to understand, engineering has evolved over hundreds of years. And when there's a disaster, the engineers go out and say, okay, how did this building fail? What can we do to the code, the building code, to make it so it doesn't experience as much damage next time? And if you go in a disaster, let's say an earthquake, you'll see the newer building codes. You don't have nearly as much damage as the old building codes. In fact, in Utah, if it's mid-1970s, they said those buildings is where most of our problems are going to come from in an earthquake. But they've kept improving building codes, so make sure when you do new construction you have those codes followed. Keep and maintain an emergency supply kit in an easy-to-access location. And we've talked in pretty good depth about that, so we won't do any more here other than to remind you to have that available. All right, congratulations, you have almost completed this module. However, remember, you still need to take that module exam. Well, congratulations, you have completed this module. Remember to always think ahead. Be prepared, be safe, and you know what, be happy. Have a great day. Goodbye.